I just felt like, wow, this feels weird. I feel alone. Everybody talks about how you should enjoy your own company. I don't want to be the person that now says, I'm not really enjoying my company. I know many people talk about how um, they are fine on their own and they enjoy their own company, and they really don't. I know it is something that happens a lot. I have witnessed it, I have seen it happen, you know. So it can be hard in such situations where a person is used to saying the opposite of how they really feel, whether on social media or to people in their lives. It can be very difficult for such a person to not get to a place where they're like, yep, I'm lonely or I feel lonely. For some people it almost sounds like a taboo to admit that they are lonely. They're like, everybody talks about how you should enjoy your own company. I don't want to be the person that now says, I'm not really enjoying my company. I know how it might not be the easiest thing to now get to a place where you now finally acknowledge and admit that, yep, I'm lonely. But that's the first thing. I say it a lot, how the first step to anything is to become aware and then to acknowledge what you're actually facing, what you're actually feeling. And it applies here as well. So the first thing I'd encourage you to do is to acknowledge that you feel lonely. I say it a lot, people I meet with and clients and people I interact with, that emotions are a pointer to what is going on inside of you. They are not necessarily a bad thing, regardless of what you've been told growing up. Regardless of the emotions are not in themselves a bad thing. It's what you do with it, it's how much you allow it to linger, it's what it can eventually become that can be detrimental. But the emotion itself is basically like a knock on the door. You're supposed to go and check it out and say, oh, what's behind that knock? So if you are feeling lonely, that's the first thing I encourage you to do. Acknowledge that you feel lonely. Then you might want to attend to the bonds and relationships that you've allowed dust and cobwebs to tabernacle on. Because it's important for you to try and strengthen, rekindle, tighten the bonds, the relationships that were healthy and that you've kind of abandoned. So I remember when I first moved to the city I currently live in, and when I was about to start attending the church I currently attend, and I was previously attending a very good church, but God started talking to me about leaving the church, and then He led me to the church I currently attend. So the first service I attended in the church was it wasn't a Sunday service, it was a special program. And so the church is typically a big church, but during special programs it seems bigger because so many people come, yada yada yada. So I felt swallowed, when you feel like, wow, especially if you go for an event without knowing anyone, or you go for an event alone. I felt very going in, I felt like, wow, I don't really know anyone and all of that, and I felt a bit shy. And I remember how the service was incredible. It was incredible. It was just what I needed at the time. And I remember when I was ending the service, so I have this habit where after church, I still do it now with my husband, where I want to talk about how it was, I want to talk about my experience, I want to talk about what I believe God was saying to me during the service. And I didn't really have anybody to do that with. It felt it felt very weird, because I just felt like, wow, this feels weird. I feel alone. And then I can't remember after how long, then out of nowhere, I just remembered somebody I had not spoken to in years. The person just came to my mind. I don't even know if I knew she was attending that church at the time or not, but she just came to my mind out of nowhere. And I called her, and turns out, oh, that's the church she was attending and all of that. And in that season and beyond, because we are still very good friends now, but in that season I really it was something, that connection was something I really needed for many reasons beyond even church. If God had not put that in my mind at that point where I started to feel a little bit alone in church, going to church, talking about church, stuff like that. And I had a ton of events I wanted to attend. If God had not brought that to my remembrance, yes, I was still met a lot of people I now know, but I might have not been able to navigate certain situations and certain experiences the way I did. Honestly, God really used my connection with her in that season. Honestly. So if you are listening to me now, this is your cue to rekindle healthy relationships that you have allowed just to settle on. You know, they might help you in more ways that you can currently imagine, regardless of whether you feel lonely or not. But if you do feel lonely, that is something I totally encourage you to do, especially if you've moved to a new city. Even if you feel like you and the people or the person were not very close in your former city or in your former country, in your former job, it is what the phone call is worth it, the text message is worth it, the meetup is worth it. Just pick up your phone, pick up whatever you can, send them the DM, tell them, oh, I'm in your city now. It's worth the shot. You never know how significant those relationships can turn out to be in the course of your life. So that's something I encourage you to do. Strengthen the existing relationships in your life, tighten the bonds that you formed in the past, the bonds that are healthy. Then volunteer for causes. So there are so many reasons why this is a great idea, obviously, but even beyond some of the benefits of altruism, there's also the fact that you're going to meet people right? You're going to meet people who chances are think the way you think, at least as regards the cause you are volunteering for. So volunteer for causes, I think, is a great way to meet people. I think it's a great way to bond. I think it's a great way to interact. I think it's a great way to socialize. I think it's a great way to deal with loneliness. So volunteer for causes. It can be in your community. It can be. You don't even have to be part of the team that shows up on ground. You can be part of the planning committee. You know. So just volunteer for causes. Honestly, pursue your hobbies, date yourself. It can seem very basic, it can seem very obvious, but you'll be surprised how going to learn salsa, going to learn how to swim, going for a class on painting or pottery, stuff like that, can go a long way in releasing endorphins, depleting feelings of loneliness. So pursue your hobbies, date yourself, go to nice restaurants. There's this restaurant I have a very emotional attachment to right now, because when I was single, it's the restaurant that I used to take myself to every week. I would just go there. I would listen to a Mike Todd message and eating and enjoying myself. If anybody tries to come talk to me, I'll be like, boy, bye, please. And it was legit like my time to myself. I really, really suggest doing that. Date yourself, take yourself out, carry out activities that you really, really like. Not activities, that people think. If you don't like sewing or knitting or stuff like that, don't do it just because maybe it's the fad or it's trending on Instagram reels or something like that. Do what you really are interested in. So the truth is that it's possible to still feel lonely after carrying out some of these things I've said, especially if there's an underlying issue there or it's beginning to deteriorate into like depression and stuff like that. Book an appointment with a mental health professional if you think that your feelings of loneliness are not going despite some of these things. So thank you so much for hanging with me. I hope that these points I've made about how to deal with loneliness go a long way into helping you. I know they are very basic and I know that they are very simple, which is the point. You can apply them, you can start applying them. If you found this video helpful, please share it. give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next video.